Real Talk Radio with your host G. What's good, my good people? What's good? You already know what it is. Real Talk Radio with your host G. We out here. You know what it is on the Rising Mondays, and we're back for yet another episode. And I hope you guys had a restful weekend, and I hope you guys are up for the week ahead. And most importantly, I hope you guys are excited for this episode of On the Rise Monday, where I interview a young photographer by the name of Keryn Taylor. So please do stay tuned as we go through her journey of being on the rise. Okay, so welcome, Keryn, and thank you so much for joining me here on Real Talk Radio, and thank you for joining me on this On the Rise Monday episode. Can you please just give us a brief introduction of yourself and your background?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, G. So obviously I'm Keryn Taylor. I'm currently a student at the University of Pretoria. I'm studying a BA General with the hope of majoring in drama therapy for honours. I'm an influencer for Team Saint, which is the biggest influencing agency in South Africa, and I'm an ambassador for Awe.on. I'm also a photographer on the side, which is one of my passions and something I'm wanting to pursue more professionally in the near future.
Okay, sweet. Thank you for that. So, when did your passion for photography start, and what would you say sparked your passion for it?
So my passion for photography started from a young age. It was on my 11th birthday that I received my very first camera. I was so excited. Looking back though, that camera was nothing in comparison to what I have now. My passion started from my love for nature and capturing it. I remember getting a ladder from my garage and climbing this tree with my camera just to capture some eggs from a bird's nest. Both of my parents love photography. In fact, my mother is part of the Pietermaritzburg Camera Club. Their fancy cameras fascinated me for as long as I can remember. My love for photography deepens every day. I love capturing moments and noticing things that would ordinarily seem mundane. I love photographing people and showing them how intricately beautiful they are, especially through laughter. Seeing people's reactions to my photography inspires me to continue capturing no matter the hours of editing that follow.
Okay, so obviously, as you said, you got your first camera when you were 11, and that's kind of when your passion for photography started. Did you take any courses on the side to kind of complement or supplement, rather should I say, your photography skills?
So I actually haven't taken any courses. All of my photography I've learned myself, just through practice and playing around with different settings and stuff like that. I have, however, had a few lessons on an editing app called Adobe Lightroom with a couple of friends, namely Brendan Roberts and Justin Faber. I have saved a few courses from Udemy. I don't know if you know Udemy, but there's a lot of courses on there, and I want to do courses on how to use manual and street photography, portrait photography, and videography. But yeah, I'm mainly self-taught.
Okay, no, that's great. And what would you say the inspiration behind your brand name Kez Klicks is?
So I actually originally started with Kez Taylor Photography, but I actually found that was a bit of a mouthful to say, firstly. and I found that creating a logo for that brand meant that it would be quite bulky on my photographs as a watermark. So I did some research into other photography brands, and phrases like media were often used. I have friends that have used media in their photography brand, so I wanted to be slightly more original. I then found the phrase Kez Klicks with a C, but I was reminded by a friend that Klicks is associated with a well-known shop. So I decided to use Kez Klicks with a K because firstly it made sense with my name, and besides the intricacies of photography, you have to click in order to capture something.
No, wow, no, that's great, that's awesome. And then when you're taking pictures, what do you look for and what inspires you during the entire process?
So when I'm capturing nature, I look for movement. I know that photographs don't actually entail physical movement, but to me something still is quite boring. What I mean by this is I won't necessarily take pictures of a sunrise if there are no clouds because I like the movement of clouds. Not sure if that makes sense, but it does to me. When I take photographs of people, I love capturing emotion, whether it's a positive emotion or whether it's negative. I often try to make the people in front of the camera do movements that are natural, like laughter or dancing or running towards me in a field. I find that the best results are when people are relaxed. For example, when I'm capturing a family, I make them do somewhat silly poses and make them laugh at themselves doing those poses so that they find it easier to be in front of me.
And how would you describe the amount of precision? Because obviously when you're trying to capture movement, there's obviously you run a risk of the image coming out blurry. And how do you kind of just capture the precision of that moment when you're taking a photograph of movement as you've described?
So it's actually quite funny. My mom teases me about it quite often, but I will literally take 200 photographs and then use maybe 5 of those photographs. So I often just keep clicking and keep changing my settings and just trying different things in order to capture that movement, because sometimes it does come out blurry, and sometimes it's not in focus and capturing the wrong thing entirely. But I think as soon as you just keep trying and you keep taking multiple photos, you will end up with something that you do like.
And then how do you also balance that with your, let's say, your customers likes, or I don't know if it's preference, but how do you kind of ensure that the final product is something that your clients will like? So before I do a shoot with someone, I always ask them what are they trying to get out of the shoot, what is their main idea of the shoot, so that I can get a sort of overview of what I have to achieve in the shoot. And then throughout the shoot I will either show them some of my images and say, what would you like to change about this, just so that they have a bit of input into the shoot itself. But it's just, for me, I like capturing emotion, and I think when you're trying to capture emotion with people, you just have to make them be natural and as natural as possible. So it's not necessarily about sometimes what they want. Sometimes it's also about how can you portray something to them that they actually will want after the fact. But it's just doing research actually beforehand and asking other people and other photographers for advice on how to achieve what the specific person is wanting to achieve or the family is wanting to achieve through the shoot. Okay, now that's very interesting. And then Okay, obviously at the beginning you spoke about how you like to take pictures of nature or of, people, and obviously this whole concept of you like things to be in motion. Would you say you have like a specific specialization, and why did you choose this particular specialization?
I'd say that I started off with nature photography as my specialization, and I really grew into that love for nature and stuff like that. And thereafter, a lot of my friends started asking me to take photos of them and to start doing people photography. So I have done a few formal dances and family shoots and friendship shoots. And I think for me, my biggest thing is I want to have variety. So I'd like to increase my variety and do wedding photography, but I know that I need a lot more experience before I dive into that type of photography. I find nature photography very peaceful and extremely soul-fulfilling on the one side, and then I like the stress of capturing people, because what was initial stress from them not always knowing what they want, it turns into enjoyment throughout the shoot, and then them being thrilled with the results that they get. So basically my stress turns into joy. So yeah, long story short is I love nature photography, people photography, and I'd love to get into wedding photography.
Okay, now that's fantastic, and I'm pretty sure that with time, as you hone your skills, you most definitely will reach that stage. So at what stage would you say in your journey as a photographer did you decide to monetize on your passion, and did you go about and how did you go about charging people for your services?
Yeah, so I decided to start monetizing my passion at the end of matric, as I wanted to make some money before starting varsity so that I could get stuff for my room and buy myself some new clothes, etc. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the results of the shoots I did over the holidays and how responsive people were to having them done. I didn't really advertise myself in varsity, but I was asked by a few friends to photograph them for their formal dances, for the Razors dances, and I found that people liked my results and wanted me to photograph them more, and most of them were always willing to pay, even if I said, no, it's fine, let me do it. They would say, no, we have to pay, because it's that whole concept of you're providing a service, so we will pay you. So another reason why I decided to monetize my photography is I'm wanting to be financially independent as soon as possible, because I know how expensive I am to my parents, and I'd like to ease that burden as best as I can. Yeah.
Okay, now wow, that's quite responsible of you, and I think it's very rare to find, people who kind of take into consideration the financial strains that their parents go through and kind of, take responsibility for themselves. So that's quite, admirable of you to, kind of just, kind of just go after your own independence, and what better way than through your passion.
Yeah, thank you.
So like, how do you, here's my question. How do you actually decide how much to charge people, and like, obviously, how many years of experience would you say someone needs to have in order to actually start charging?
So I would say I don't necessarily think that you need multiple years of experience. It just depends on how much experience you have in that time. So say, for example, I took a gap year and just did photography for a year, I may have more knowledge than someone who's just doing photography on the side for 6 years. So I think it's just actually based on the skill that you have achieved yourself, and how much you value your photography for yourself and how much you would pay to have you be the photographer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I have sat down with both my parents and other photographers and chatted to them and been like, how much do you think I should pay for this? And initially I was very cheap. I was probably like getting underpaid initially because I first started with 200 Rand, I think it was, a shoot, and I would give them about 100 photos, and that is 2 Rand per photo pretty much, and that is very cheap. I mean, my one friend, he does shoots and it's 1,500 Rand per shoot and you'll get 50 photos back.
Whoa.
So I have upped my prices and I have increased my prices, bearing in mind that I am still on the rise, as you say, and I'm not a professional photographer. I'm still learning. So I have kept that in mind when I give my prices. But I basically just do research into different people's pricing and different stuff like that. I think it just literally boils down to research and what you're willing to offer your photographs and your skill at, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how long is the shoot?
It can range. So it ranges from a 30-minute shoot to a 2-hour shoot to whatever you want. But as soon as your time gets longer, your price also increases a lot. And initially you'll start off with a starting price of, say, okay, I'm thumb sucking right now, but 500 Rand for 30 minutes and you get 20 edits. And then you'll do possibly an hourly rate thereafter.
Yeah.
Or you can do package deals depending on how you want to market yourself. So for me, I like doing half an hour equals this amount, an hour equals this amount, and thereafter each photo that you receive will be, say, 20 Rand more. And time-wise also, you just equate your time to a specific price. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. And then, okay, obviously, let's say I have a professional camera, right? And I take decent, like, not like amazing, but decent, pictures. How much would I, how much can I, or what is the reasonable price to charge someone for, let's say, an hour?
For, let's say, an hour. If you take decent quality images, I would probably say that you can start yourself off at the bare minimum of 300 Rand for maybe an hour shoot, because that means you're still getting into the whole shoot business and photography business, and you're also not selling yourself short, because often people also equate the money to the quality. So if you undercharge someone and if you say, hey, I want 200 Rand, often people will be like, no, you're not experienced enough because your price is so low. And that's something you have to be careful of. But I think if you are starting out, I think 300 is a good starting out point, and you can just go from there.
Okay, and what would you say kind of distinguishes a decent photo to a great photo?
I think it's actually the editing process. So if you're just doing a quick edit that takes maybe one day and then you give the photos to the person, yeah, they may be good, they may be acceptable, but they won't be of great quality because editing takes a long, long time and it shouldn't be this quick job. So yeah, I think for me personally, I think to distinguish between a good photo and a great photo is the time taken to edit the photos.
And on average, how long does it take for you to edit photos?
So for my one shoot, I had to do 60 photos, and that took about 1.5 weeks to 2 weeks, which was very quick, but it was because I didn't have varsity at the time, so I had all day to edit. But yeah.
Okay, and on average, like how often do you have shoots?
So it depends on the time of year. When there are more formal dances and stuff like that, I have quite a few lined up, and I have quite a few people wanting me to photograph, and sometimes there's about three different dance shoots happening on the same night, and unfortunately I can't split myself in 3. But then obviously now during COVID I haven't had shoots just because of accessibility to people that I would be shooting is not very, they aren't very accessible for me. But yeah, on average, every holiday I have plus minus 3 or 4 family shoots. And then during the term, maybe 1 or 2 friendship shoots or singular shoots. And then during the dance term, then I'll have about maybe 6 or 7 different shoots.
Okay, no, that's great. And what is your expected turnaround time at your peak season?
Pardon?
What is your expected turnaround times? Because obviously, let's say you have a shoot today, when do customers expect you to actually produce the final product?
So I have made it my goal that I will only take a week to edit photos. Because obviously, especially when you've been at a dance, you always want the photos as soon as you can. And I know that when I wanted my photos, I wanted them really quickly. So I understand why people do want that. So I try make like the effort to stay up, even if it's all night, every night for a week. I will stay up and I'll get them done in that week. Yeah.
And how have you managed to sort of balance your passion of photography and obviously making money out of it? How have you managed to balance that out with your academic commitment?
So obviously academics comes first because that is what I'm studying to be, and a lot of money is being placed for me to be studying. So that is my priority at the moment. So if I do have intense tests coming or my workload is too hectic for me to take on a shoot, then I do say, look, can we postpone it to another time, or what can we do? Because I understand that my academics do come first.
Okay, sweet. And what would you say are the 5 most important things people need to know about cameras and photography as a whole?
Okay, so number 1, a camera is not a toy. It is really expensive equipment that helps you achieve results from your passion. but it is not a toy. Number 2, patience is key. You are lucky if you can capture the shot that you want with your first click. But for me, I sometimes take 50 photos and I'll only end up using 1 or 2 of them. So you do have to have patience with photography. Number 3, editing takes a while. And you can't just edit the picture once and then call it a day. You edit the picture, say at night, then you sleep and you wake up and you open your curtains and it looks completely different because now you have daylight as a factor. So you may have to alter and adapt your pictures to suit the daylight. One tip that I have is when you are editing, take a break, walk outside, readjust your eyes to the natural light, then go back inside and continue editing. Then number 4, presets save you so much time. So what a preset is when you're editing on, say, Photoshop, Lightroom, or whatever your editing software is, you edit the first picture and then you save that editing into a preset, and you go on to your next image and you just select that preset, and the computer or the software will edit your picture for you with that preset, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then number 5, practice. Make mistakes and try again. It's okay if something comes out blurry. We all have those times and we all make mistakes like that, but just keep practicing and trying different things. It's the only way to learn.
Okay, and then what would you say are some of the misconceptions that people have about photography?
So I'd say the misconceptions that I am aware of is that everyone can do it. Yes, everyone can pick up a camera and take a picture with it, but the quality may not be good. It's the same with the idea that everyone can sing, but not everyone is good at it. So I think you do have to have an eye for photography to know what angles are best, how to work with light, how to use different camera settings correctly, like the ISO, f-stops, and aperture and manual. And another important thing is people are like, cool, we're going to edit this photo, and they end up over editing their photos. So as much as editing is such an important aspect of photography, the misconception is that you just overdo everything on your editing, and you can't actually do that because then the image comes out looking absolutely horrible. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, this is going to be a very controversial question, but anyway, which camera brand would you say is the best, Nikon or Canon?
Hands down, Canon. Hands down. I have used Nikon and some Sony cameras as well, and they have been really good. They do take wonderful images. The color on a Nikon is just insane. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it is insane. But my heart will always be set on a Canon, always. 100% hands on Canon.
Why is that so?
I think when you get your first camera, you sort of stick with that sort of brand. So my first camera was a Canon, and my family all have Canons pretty much when they are photographing stuff. So my mom has a really high-end Canon, and I have a Canon, and my dad has a Canon. So I think when you are sort of brought up in this idea that Canon is the way, you start learning the intricacies of your Canon camera, and when you try and use another camera, you're like, No, I'm going to stick to my Canon. So, yeah, that's why I'm a bit of a Canon snob, but I do see the value of other cameras. So it's, yeah.
Okay, and then I'm going to slightly put you on the spot here as well. Can you just briefly about lens literacy? Because like I don't think a lot of people have like much knowledge on how to kind of use and adjust and change lenses.
Okay, so I'm probably not the best person to ask on lens literacy. I have 3 lenses that I use, but out of that spectrum, like anything out of those 3 lenses, I still need to learn a lot more about. So for my usual photography on, say, people, I use my 150mm. It just works better, it captures them more, and yeah, I don't know really how to explain it. I just find that it works best. Then I have another 200mm lens, and that is for either closer, like I want to zoom into something more intricately, or things are further away from me. So for example, if I'm taking a picture of the sunrise, I will use that lens because I can zoom in a lot closer to what I'm trying to capture. And then my last lens is the 50mm, and this lens is very close to like the macro lens, and what you do with this lens is you capture more insects and close-up things. So if you were to take a picture of a person's eye, you would use this. If you were trying to capture an ant on a leaf, you would use this lens. With this lens you can't zoom in and you can't zoom out, but it's very, very zoomed in itself, if that makes sense.
Like very focused.
Yeah, so if I sit with my 50mm, I can pretty much see the eyes of an ant, which is so insanely cool. Yeah, and then there's another lens after that I'm wanting to get, and it's a 28mm, and that's also used for macro. And even close up than the 50mm, and so you can probably even see the intricacies of the bee's little fur balls on it. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's the best way that I can explain it. But I would say before you get any lenses, do research on the lens that you are wanting to get, and ask people that use that lens. Ask them for advice about it, and just find out more about it before you just rush in and get it, because lenses do cost a lot. I mean, the one lens that is a 28mm, it is 5,695 Rand, just for one lens. So photography is not for people that won't put money into it, if that makes sense. It does require a lot of money, and a lot of research needs to be done first.
And then, like, okay, obviously, again, back to lens literacy. Okay, obviously, the higher up you go, right, if I'm correct, in terms of your mils, is that, like, how far you can zoom out? Or, like, you know, zoom into, a particular thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just need...
Yeah.
Okay, no, I just wanted clarity on that, because, yeah, I guess, like, you know, again, like, I think people just need to really do their research and educate themselves before kind of launching.
Yeah, I think research is so key, especially with any form of technology. You can't just go buy something without knowing more about it, because you actually need to know what you can use this specific lens for, what you can do this with and that with. And then there's other things that you can buy to put on your lenses, like filters and stuff that you can slow down water. And there's so much that you can do with your lenses and with your camera, but you do need to do the research before purchasing anything.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. And what would your final advice be for anyone wanting to pursue photography, and how does one go about improving their skills?
Okay, so my advice to anyone who wants to pursue photography is to develop your love for it by practicing and loving the results that you will achieve when you take pictures. If you take pictures that are out of focus, don't beat yourself up about it. Literally learn from it. Also, try photographing something you love. For example, if you love flowers, take pictures of flowers. That will increase your love for photography, and you'll end up wanting to explore different mediums and discovering new things about photography as you go along. Also, ask for help and get advice from other photographers, and take that advice into consideration, because someone else might know more than you do, and that's okay. You can learn from them and improve your own photography, and then you can advise other people who don't know as much as you. There are also tons of YouTube videos out there explaining how to do specific things using your camera and using specific modes. I would suggest going onto Udemy and finding some Udemy courses. They can definitely add to your skills within photography, and you can put it on your CV.
Yeah, okay, and then how soon to start monetizing on, photography, would you say?
Yeah, so as soon as someone starts asking to have shoots done by you, I would say start monetizing it, because you never know where it can lead you, and people are willing to pay for photographers. I mean, everyone is a very visual, this society is very visually based. Everyone has Instagram, Facebook, and different social media platforms, and they want you to capture them in a way that they can be appealing on social media. So yeah, I would say as soon as someone is starting to ask you to do shoots for them, start monetizing things.
Okay, sweet. And where can we find you on social media? Should anyone require your photography services? Yeah, where can we find you?
Okay, so my main page is Kez Klicks on Instagram, KezKlicks, and then my personal account is at Kez Taylor _, and you can contact me on either platforms. I do have a Facebook page, but I need to update it. So as soon as that is updated and up and running, then there will be Facebook as well, and that's Keryn Taylor Photography.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode on the Rise Mondays, Kez. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I hope people have gained some insight on photography and the amount of investment and sacrifice that is required to go into it, and obviously, like you mentioned, the need for research before you kind of just launch yourself into buying a camera or doing whatever. So thank you so much for your insight and just shedding light and enlightening people and sharing your passion for photography with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely speaking about it.